the June 14th, 2021 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as amended to include item 7A, a letter of support for the Hope and District Chamber of Commerce regarding their application to the Economic Trust of the Southern Interior Building Economic Development Capacity Program and for granting funding for their community revitalization business lighting initiative. And we have item 7B3, emails from the Heritage Branch regarding the Hope Station House. So a motion for the amended agenda, moved, second. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. There's a lot of people on the screen tonight. Next item is the adoption of the minutes at the regular meeting of council May 25th, 2021, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held May 25th be adopted as presented. I have a mover and a seconder. Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next item, we have a delegation for the Coalition for the Preservation of the Hope Station House. We have Arlene Webster and Emily Logier. And Emily, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tom. That's great. So hello, everyone. And yes, thank you so much for allowing us to present this evening. This evening, we want to share some of the grant research we have found, as well as some dollar figures. We've done extensive research into grants that have been offered around the province, and we feel confident that we could write successful grants to raise funds to pay for large portions of this building, if not for all. So also to touch on the Heritage Branch letter that came in today, the station house is extremely significant, rare, and valuable. It seems that it has grown in significance in people's minds, and it is one modest construction contract away from being in excellent condition and ready for willing tenants to fit out for their uses. So let's get started. I will take you through some other places that have received funding. Then I will take you through your own plans based on the facility's master plan, and finally show how the district could save $500,000 to $1 million. Next slide, please. You'll notice in these slides that these places have lower population numbers, but large sums of money granted to them. Salmon Arm is actually the largest population you'll see. All population numbers come from the 2016 census. I'm starting with the smallest sums and working up. So Salmon Arm has a population of about 18,000 and they received $100,000 for creating dioramas inside their historic Montebello building. Next slide, please. Revelstoke has a population of around 7,500. And their railway museum received almost $225,000 to upgrade its accessibility. Next slide, please. Port Renfrew has a population of only 144 and received $280,000 to go towards renovations and landscaping for their visitor center. Next slide, please. What's interesting about Port Renfrew is that they're also listed as receiving other funding for infrastructure improvement to their Avatar Grove. So if Hope applies for multiple grants, we don't need to worry that we're taking money away from ourselves. It's possible to receive multiple grants at one time for parts of the same project or for different projects. Next slide, please. Kailnagai has a population just under 5,000 people, and they received $500,000 for infrastructure improvements to their heritage center and museum. This is a building that already exists, which they want to refurbish. And this seems sort of similar to Hope, does it not? Even the population is kind of close. Heritage Center and Museum, $500,000, seems good. Doesn't it give you a little bit of hope? Next slide, please. Port Alberni, whose population is under 2,000, they received almost $400,000 for their train station. Next slide, please. Near Spuzzum, which has a local population of 46 people, the Alexandra Bridge received $500,000 for infrastructure improvements. And I believe Councillor Smith is involved with this project. Next slide, please. Another close by is Yale, who has a population of 143, and they received $750,000 for the entrance building and parking lot at the Yale Historic Site. Next slide, please. Here we have Headley. Even though they're a population of 242 people, this historical site received close to $800,000 for historical preservation, public access, and safety. It is currently run by the Upper Similkameen Indian Band. Next slide, please. In Nelson, the population is around 10,000, and they received $1 million for their Hall Street Pier project. In addition to the SARIF grant, the city also received a grant of $500,000 from the Columbia Basin Trust. Depending on their choices for the project, this could mean that 100% of this project was externally funded. What's interesting here is how they also engage local partners and tradesmen to really understand the full needs and scope of the project. Next slide, please. Lastly, we have Boston Bar with a tiny population of 190, and North Bend with an additional 93. They received almost $2 million for their station house. These are a few heritage projects that we wanted to highlight, but they're only a few among many. Next slide, please. The province of BC and Heritage BC announced results of the allocation of heritage infrastructure funding in February. There were 68 projects granted funding. Here are 5 pages of 68 different projects. Notice the variety of who receives money and what for. On this page, for example, number 11. And I'm gonna just breeze by these because unfortunately, we won't have time to make it through my full presentation in 15 minutes if we don't. So here, number 22 and 30, the Fraser Valley Historical Society in Kamloops. The next slide, please. Great, and you can just keep moving up to 62 where you see the half page. We have the Alexandra Bridge. Rehabilitation is discussed a lot. Then there's Tashmi is mentioned in this list, as well as on this last page, we have Headley in number 62 and Salmo train station for exterior restoration. Next slide, please. This is a breakdown of the types of work which funding has received and which coincides with the needs of the station house. General renovations, exterior work on the building, interior work on the building, or work on the surrounding property. Next slide, please. Hope is just as worthy to receive funds as any of those other locations and heritage projects. The district owns the building, so right now, no one else has the authority to apply for funding for this building. But the district can still administer grants to a society partner to do the work and organize the rebuilding of the asset. This is similar to what the original agreement looked like with Advantage Hope. Why not partner with a local organization? They write the grants and you submit and then administer the money to do the project. This way, the building could be retained as a municipal asset. We know the district needs a museum, and we know Advantage Hope needs space. According to your facilities master plan published by the district needs 2,800 square feet for the info center and museum spaces combined. Advantage Hope confirmed for us that the square footage amounts in the plan are correct. So 2,800 square feet. The station house floor plan of the main floor is actually 2,850 square feet. And that's also according to the Heritage Works report. For ease, we refer to it as a flat 2,800. In addition to this, there's an upper floor with 800 more square feet of usable space, plus 400 square feet with a sloping roof that could be used for storage. Now, there are rumors and hearsay about that upper space being unusable, but the contractor who last worked on it assures us that it is structurally sound and was signed off on. And in addition to this, our group was allowed to walk around in that space freely with no signature of a liability waiver or any supervision or precautions to assure our safety. So both of these tidbits of information lead us to believe that that upstairs is 1,200 square feet of viable space. Next slide, please. So let's look at the cost of a new build. What will it cost the people in this district if the council builds a brand new info center and a brand new museum, according to the square footage needs you have listed? We've done the math. According to the numbers you provided in your master plan, the cost to the district to build brand new comes to $1.75 million for 2,800 square feet. This includes site development, soft costs, building construction, and contingency costs. And it is possible these numbers per square foot have increased due to the elevated prices of construction at the moment. Now, let's take a look at what it would cost to renovate and move the station house. Next slide, please. Right off the bat, we know it needs to be moved, and this is at most $130,000 based on a 4-month-old quote from the moving company. The site development and soft costs remain the same for the square footage. However, the construction and contingency costs are drastically lowered. This is because we already have the envelope of the building, and this means we have a clearer idea of what is needed and what could go wrong. $800,000 comes straight from the contractor who did the most recent work on the building, and contingency we've dropped by 75% for the reason I just mentioned. In total, the station house would cost $1.18 million as compared to the higher cost of a new build. Grant funds like those I've mentioned earlier will be possible for Hope in the future. Jackie Taggart has confirmed that there are many grant opportunities for a project like ours in the pipeline. And in addition to these, the gas tax rebate, which the district has just received in 2 installments worth $645,000, can be used towards rehabilitation of a building. In addition, Mayor Robb stated on December 10th, 2020, that the $650,000 settlement money for the building could go towards an info center. There's way more than 1.18 million. So today we received also an additional budget from Heritage Works, and I'd like to quickly take you through their numbers. There's no slide for this, unfortunately, though. So adding their figures and the contingency cost would bring the total to $750,000, which you cannot see because we received these numbers only today. This is a $1 million savings to the district compared to the new build of an info center and museum. Next slide, please. Whether our numbers or Heritage Works, there's a $560,000 to a $1 million savings for the Hope community if we repurpose this building. And remember, there are also other reasons to rehabilitate. The opportunity to apply for grants to lower the rebuild costs rather than relying on local taxpayers for the new build or selling off local property assets for the new build. The opportunity to ask for community support and volunteerism to lower the costs and build community connection. The opportunity to lower carbon emissions with a smaller footprint. The heritage value of the building that it brings to the community is priceless. However, the future economic impacts on Hope's heritage and cultural tourism is quantifiable at 2 times the investment. And there's the opportunity to offset other district expenses, which I will go over in a second. Remember earlier, I shared some of the projects that other towns are receiving money for: infrastructure, improvement, retrofitting, upgrading, for example. Next slide, please. Applying for grants from all of these would lower the $800,000 build cost. However, this can also offset the general budget of the district by lowering other expenses that they would already be incurring for regular operations. Outdoor work on the city sidewalk, road, and parking lot area around the building could receive an upgrade through grant funding. This would also lower the district's general budget expenditures, as those costs would be shifted to the station house grant. Displays for the museum are also another example of funds that would need to be spent anyway, but with the building as a local heritage site, the chances of receiving funding for this increase. So once again, regular expenditures that the district would need to annually budget for get offset with external grants. What about regular infrastructure upkeep? that the city needs to spend on its buildings. This is another expenditure that could be offset. The roof of the station house was completed not that long ago and is in good shape, but we know roofing is eventually going to need to be done again, and funds for this can be applied for in years leading up to the date we know the roof needs work. The possibilities are endless. And so I'm saying one more time, this now is the last opportunity that this council has to put the brakes on this demolition agenda, this heritage dismantling agenda. We have more than 800 letters of support from community members and are receiving more each week. You are making history here. 10, 20, 100 years from now, people are going to look back on this moment in time as a part of Hope's history, and your choice is going to be your legacy. What is your legacy? Is it going to be that you are the ones who got the wrecking ball and tore down Hope's only municipally owned heritage building? Or are you going to be the ones to help save it? It's just like those books, choose your own adventure. And so now I welcome any questions. Thank you. And I made it in 15 minutes. I had to talk fast though.
You did an excellent job, Emily. Thank you very much for your presentation. At this time, does council have any further question or any questions? I know we've been given a lot of information again over the last few days. All right, moving on then. Thank you again for your presentation. Next item is staff reports. We have a report dated June the 3rd from our Director of Finance, the 2020 Statement of Financial Information. I don't know if Dale's been able to join us tonight. It doesn't look like.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, it doesn't, so I'll take over if that's all right.
Yes, go ahead, John.
Right. This is a statutory requirement from the province that we publish our statement of financial information. It also includes the auditor's report. So every year, councils do this, and it's for public information and transparency reasons.
Okay, so the motion reads that council approves the 2020 Statement of Financial Information. Moved in second. Without staff here, is there any questions for John or concerns? We've been through this a few times, I know. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Next item is mayor and council reports. So we're starting off tonight with council reports. Can we start with Councillor Tron tonight, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick update from the Chamber of Commerce. The farmers market is up and running from 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. every Friday up until the end of August 2021. The Chamber is also planning some pop-up car shows this summer, be giving the community an opportunity to check out some amazing collectors' vehicles. Also in the works, sidewalk sales are coming to the Downtown Business Core on August 28th, and there's more information on that to come. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councillor Medlock, please.
I don't really have anything to report from the past, but I do have a community action committee meeting coming up next Monday, I believe it is. And that's really all I have to report. Oh, I guess I should say something about Canada Day. We are going to do the car tour again this year instead of a car show, just because the restrictions haven't been that definite as to what could take place as of July 1st.
Yes.
So we've decided to do the same as we did last year and hope for better weather than we had last year. And so far I've got quite a bit of interest in it. So I think it'll be good. And I just wanted to say one thing too, just about just to acknowledge and the residential school from Kamloops and what happened up there. And I'm glad to see that we still have some memorial out at our cenotaph there by Town Hall. And I just wanted to make that acknowledgement.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Medlock. Councillor Erickson, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, from our last council meeting, I got a couple calls regarding the economic development person. people have been asking, why haven't we had her on council to give us a brief and to introduce her to the public? I think we should invite her to a council meeting and for her to present her goals and what she's planning on doing for our area in the next year or so. It'd be nice to see her on council and hear from her. Just wonder if that would be a possibility that we could schedule her in.
I believe she's booked for the next council meeting.
Oh, great. That's all I have to report today. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Stewin, please.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I attended a Purple Lights meeting and we continue to plan for our kickoff event on October the 1st. It's going well. I also attended an MIABC webinar on high conflict interactions, another great day. And as well, I attended the Hope Business Development Alliance meeting. I can't share what happens in the meetings. We've decided it's to be confidential, but I can assure the community that there's a lot going on. Lots of stuff that is coming down the pipe, really great for our community. So that was good. And I was contacted. They've got a provincial program for mentorship for women and people from diverse backgrounds. And so I spent about 2 hours on the Zoom today with one of the organizers. And it's really exciting to see that they'll have a mentor program for women for the next election. So awesome. And that's all I have to report today.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Stewin. Councillor Dusty Smith, please.
Yeah, thank you. Not much to report other than I had a couple concerns come across the table actually in the last 2 days. I didn't have a chance to get an email out to John as well. Just that for the homeowners grant application for the property taxes and stuff like that are coming for people. It's joys of our divided community, I guess, is some people don't see the online information that comes out to them. So there was just some confusion, especially with the COVID end of things. I think staff has done a good job on relaying what's going on for all the tax provision end of things and how they have to pay their taxes and stuff like that. But there was 3 people that came to me at the shop and just said it was confusing. They didn't understand it. And I said I would just make mention that we'll try and make it better for next year. And hopefully we're not in the situation we are this year for the next tax base.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. The staff up front, I thought were doing a great job explaining how to use the phone system or to do it online. Of course, the province made these changes, not us. And it's not going, this is the way it's going to be now for applying for grants. So maybe it needs you can never do enough communication. So we'll find maybe more creative ways for next year. Councillor Smith, please.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. Library happenings. Some of the new hours for libraries are going to be extended at the library. Check out for the new times and dates. And please respect the safety protocol in place for your safety moving forward on this. The library is excited to get going again, but we want to make sure we're safe. The Hope and District Chamber of Commerce, so ED Economic Development Officer Chantal Ouellette and myself, as president of the chamber, have been making some calls to local business. So we're trying to get outside the COVID shell. Chantal has been working hard with connecting with people to get Hope back on a positive track. And she's done a lot of things behind the scenes, bringing it forward and that. Communities in Bloom are moving forward with the plans for the chainsaw event. The changes going on, we're working with the district because it's always changing a bit, trying to make sure it's safe here. The communities in Bloom are working with the Grow with BC national program. It is coming together with Teresa Williams and the crew. So far, they'll be checking out people's front yards and you'll be getting a little awards package for that. So watch for these. There'll be 3 or 4 ladies there. Don't kick them off your property. They're checking you out. The Trash to Treasure, I hope everybody found their treasure out there. It was very well attended. A lot of things changed hands this weekend. We found it was better since we stopped advertising 2 years ago down the valley. People here would need something. They'd take one thing and leave the rest. It was just the difference. When the people came down the valley, they just take everything they had. So it was nice to see that. And then people talked and everything else. It was, and that's what it's supposed to be in a small town. And also with Councillor Stu, and I was at the Connecting Thing round table with Chantel and that group. It was excellent, a lot of good conversation, like Councillor Stu said. It was very interesting. And also in the district, I had the privilege to speak on the video on behalf of Mayor and Council to the grad class. So just me and the video machine and one gentleman. But thanks to everybody for working so hard to make this special year so possible. To the teachers, teaching staff, the school district, for adjusting all the time for the changing target when focusing to see our grads to the finish line. It was nice to see, and the people came out and supported everybody. They did a lot of work to make that happen. So, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'll move on to my report. So I'd like to start off by, I've been working with Fraser Health on changing some of the times for our vaccination clinic. And working with, I was successful. I'm pleased to say that this Thursday from 3:30 to 6 will be a drop-in for locals only. With the appointment system and the way it's set up, people can make an appointment to come to Hope, but they live in Surrey. We need more of our local people to have the opportunity, and this is going to open that up from 3:30 to 6 this Thursday at the Legion for a drop-in clinic. This could be for your first shot, your second shot. So let's get down there and get it done. Next item is the Trans Mountain Community Benefit Agreement. I've talked to the council about this for a long time now, and now it's the crunch time. We need to give staff clear direction, and so I can put together a letter and send it off to Trans Mountain on what our plans are for our 500,000. Some of the items that we've talked about and the public has talked to me about is continuing the Hope Community Park with another bike trail, the sports bowl upgrades, the help startup funding for the museum, a new community park at the end of Swallow Place in the Coquille Lake area. Those are just some of the things that the public has talked to me about. So I hope you have your ideas ready so that we can give staff some direction tonight. So would anyone like to throw out their ideas, get started here? Councillor Tron.
Sorry, 1 second. Lost my ears for a second. I was a little disappointed at budget time, or when we came around to finalize the budget, well, there wasn't much of a discussion on our paving plan for this year, having a lot of money allotted to put towards paving. And I would like to see a good chunk of that $500,000 put to repairing some of our roads around town here, which I know need a lot of TLC. And I think that would also make the community members happy to see it invested in that as well.
John, can I ask you if you wouldn't mind, was that an item that would qualify?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have the document in front of me, but it's my inclination that it wouldn't, because they're looking for a legacy kind of project that would stay in the community. Paving plan and repairs to roads is an ongoing maintenance thing, and I just don't think they would view that as being eligible.
And that's the conversation I recall as well, but we can certainly look into it, Councillor Tron, and get back to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Erickson, please.
I think Councillor Scott was ahead of me.
Okay. All right, whoever wants to go.
It's okay either way, but since I'm talking now. So I've thought about this a lot since the initial contribution agreement was signed. And I know that the initial project that was selected was the Coquihalla River Park. But I also know that a lot more, as a report that's in our agenda here now states, there was a lot more work that was put into that project through other fundraising efforts. And it, you know, it's almost completed, but there's still a lot to do there. You know, the big thing for me was the amount of work that took place there was largely in part done by volunteers. And the volunteers specifically that came out and did a lot of the work were not necessarily those that would use the sections of the park that they were volunteering to. They were out there doing their part to make the whole community a better place, with the idea, I believe, that on the backside, when this Trans Mountain pipeline money was to be distributed, that they would see some benefit from it as well. And I'd really like to honor that and stick with that. So I just put some rough numbers together and a few projects that I think are still outstanding that need to get dealt with. One of the big ones, I guess, was in the initial park project, the design for the skate park upgrades was done. So we have that document, we have the design, it just needs to get built out. And I think that would be something that would be good. I mean, we've got another skate park business in town now. So I think that's only going to fuel the fire for skateboarding as a thing to do in the community. And I think the time would be right to continue on with that project. The bike park still has a few elements left to do, and there's still some maintenance to do in there. The higher skills part of the bike park was not quite finished. That's the section closest to the hydro station. So that is also already designed, but it'd be nice to see that completed. I'm looking at that from a point of view of the youth that started using that bike park when it was first opened, have now developed some skills, and they're probably ready to take it to the next level with the part that is not completed yet. And then in the sports bowl area, we've been looking to get some permanent lighting installed, some lamp standards that would be good to use for brigade days or any other events that take place down there. It would probably make that area a lot safer and definitely more usable for other user groups in the future. And I believe that there's still a large part of the fencing that was already completed that is yet to be paid for. And that money was supposed to be, Mr. Fordolowski can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe a large part of that was already completed, and we were waiting for this Trans Mountain Pipeline money to come in to actually pay that bill. So I think all of those things I've just talked about probably will total somewhere in the $350,000 range, which leaves about $150,000. And I think its best use would be to continue on with the project of our trail development in and around the area. And I'd really like to see that money go towards that. So I think it's open for discussion, and I'd like to hear what everybody else has to think, but I think that's the best use of all those funds.
All right, that's a good start. Spending $350, that's good. Councillor Dusty Smith.
After hearing some news about some of our grant applications and stuff like that, I also think, and Scott's talked to the legacy part of it, we've had a touchstone over the Coquihalla River Park and seen what awesome things that we can do. Some of the projects that continue on in this community are very hard to get volunteer driven behind them. So I think something like the Richmond Hill corridor is something that could be a legacy part of it, that you're not going to ever get a volunteer situation involved in on that. Whereas the district, maybe we can look at different funding opportunities to get into the Coquihalla River Park and finish off some of those unfinished projects down the road and help stretch the volunteer money and do that into things. I know there's a couple people probably on here about the station house and the things that this funds could be done to, but I think with what's going on in Silver Creek right now, we see a developer that's working down at the Hawking Pit area. We see huge development happening down on Beacon Road. There's 3 or 4 signs up for development that are going to happen soon. I think Silver Creek is an area that's growing and evolving very rapidly. And this could be an opportunity for council to put these funds towards getting that corridor fixed up, making a nice walk, bike path. Like I travel that road probably 15 times a day because of where I'm located in Silver Creek, and my business is out in Silver Creek, and I go into town every day for supplies, and it's amazing how many people walk over that hill, bike over that hill, scooter over that hill. So I might be biased on this situation, but I think we're lucky that we've never had a situation where somebody's been hurt on that hill lately, especially now that we've implemented a school zone into that area. I'd like to see our funds push towards making that hill safer. So that's my opinion.
So scale down the project that we've been talking about for years on Richmond Hill.
Scale down and
scale it down and
see where we can go with some of part of that, or see if we can put in some funding on top of the Trans Mountain money as well too. So
all right, Councillor Erickson, then Councillor Stewin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I realized at the council meeting tonight that we didn't get the grant, that's one of my things that I was going to present, and I'm glad Dusty did, is the Richmond Hill. If we could do something with that money for Richmond Hill. I totally agree with Dusty on that. It's a very important to get a bike trail over top of that or walkway of some sort. My other thought was, which I talked to you again about today, was if we could get some bike trails in Hope where you can actually cycle or people can actually take their stroller and get out and get exercise. Hope is a beautiful place to enjoy outdoors. And I think if we did something with some bike trails around the community, every community that I see has trails for people to get out and walk on. And I think Richmond Hill would be a great start. So those are the two items that I think would be really good for us to put toward the money toward.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Erickson. Councillor Stewart.
So I'm number 3. Richmond Hill would be my number 1 choice. And mostly for safety reasons and because it's been a 20-year promise to the people in our community, and it just keeps getting pushed to the side. So my wish would be for the Richmond Hill project and to use our reserve funds to complete the project over and above the 500,000.
All right. Councillor Smith.
Hi. So I know the Richmond Hill project's been disappointing. We haven't heard any word on that. I'm, possibly UBCM, of that, because I know a lot of work's been done on this, and I do agree with about there. So the Chamber's working on a grant this Friday. We're trying to do all the outline of the business in downtown Hope and Silver Creek and White Lights. It creates that positive atmosphere. So we'd be looking for 50,000 more on top that we could do all of Main Street if we get the other grant we're applying for. So we're applying for it on Friday, but if we could do Silver Creek and downtown Hope, because we need to look after those. Hope Princeton Way is pretty strong, doing well, but we need to look after our court. And I know it's only part of it, the 50,000, but I would like to hang off till September and hopefully we have word for that grant, because I know that Kevin and I has worked hard and hopefully somebody answers the call pretty soon. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Is there anyone else? Sorry, one second here, sorry. Sorry about that. There was some last minute changes that I wanted to make sure I had the correct paperwork for. All right, did I miss anyone that wants to speak to this? Councillor Medlock.
Yeah, I mean, I still think my ideas are the best, but I can certainly get behind Richmond Hill as a project. I think that's a good use of the dollars as well. That there may be, I've always been flabbergasted by the dollar figure attached to that project. I still think that there might be a way to do something at a reduced design. See everybody shaking their head. I know that we've tried to design it to some sort of the municipal standard, but I see bike paths and other pathways in other communities that are not full lane widths. They're just they're functional and useful and get used, and I still think that we can do something for less. I think it's definitely worth taking a look at that, or having maybe some contractors that would be interested in the project to take a look at our plans and suggest a reduction that would fit into a budget that we could give them. So yeah, I know, being unsuccessful in the grant is never something we want to hear, but it's a reality. So I think we have to move on. So my biggest thing was trying to honor those that helped us all through the community, the Coquihalla River Park project. So I definitely want to see that work continue over there in some capacity at some time for sure, and sooner than later would be ideal.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Medlock, for those words. It's okay. Anyone else want to contribute? I think we will. I'll work with staff down some direction there, but well, it looks like Richmond Hill surface to the top, and then depending on what we come up with, maybe there's still some room there to finish off a bike trail or something. So if council's comfortable with that direction, then I'll work with staff on putting something together, and we'll get back to you. A head nod. That's good, I guess. All right. Next item is next item on my report is from the Ombudsman's letter dated June the 1st about the station house. So during my mayor's report at the last council meeting and my CBC interview, I implied that the office of the ombudsman person was giving council the direction to repeal the heritage bylaw. The ombudsman person's office was only giving council the correct procedural way forward. The ombudsman person office does not interfere with local government legislative decisions. So what I'm going to read to you now is what we as council were required to do to move forward. And I believe we've completed everything, but I just want to make it clear again. This is a direct quote from the ombudsman's letter. Halting the demolition of the station house until council formally considers all three options presented by the province in the December 18th, 2019 license of occupation, including moving the station house rather than demolishing it, or until the district provides me with evidence sufficient to demonstrate that council did in fact formally consider moving the station house before ultimately voting to demolish it. And council formally considers the impact that bylaw 633 has in determining the appropriate legal regime governing the demolition or alteration of the station house, or until the district provides me with evidence sufficient to demonstrate that council did in fact consider the station house's status as a municipal heritage site pursuant to bylaw 633 before voting to demolish it, and committing to reading and reasonably attempting to adhere to the guidelines in our office's publication titled Open Meetings, Best Practices for Local Governments, available online. That's all I'm going to say at this time about that issue. The next item was the emails that we received today from the Heritage Branch regarding the Hope Station House. I just wanted to acknowledge that we all received it, and it's a large package there, and similar information that we had from the coalition and from the society, but a more formalized in emails. The next item is I'd like to have a motion to go ahead with the letter a letter of support requested for the business lighting project. It's moved by Councillor Stewin, second by Councillor Erickson. All those in favor? Carried. So good luck with that. On to permits and bylaws. Council, we have two options here. You can adopt as presented, or you can delay. So I'd like to, let me just make sure I got this right with staff. Do I have to get this on the table first with a mover and seconder? Or that would put it through?
You can get direction from council prior to reading a resolution if they want to consider the
okay.
information they've received thus far and delay the consideration of adoption.
I'm just a little bit sensitive to the right procedures tonight on this, so I want to make sure. So I open it up to the floor to council on what are your wishes here on adoption or delay? And if you're going to delay, what are the reasons for? Councillor Erickson.
So after hearing the comments earlier regarding the cost of the infrastructure on the building and the move, it just seems like everything is flipped around from the information that we got when we were working with this council back, say, a few years ago. $450 a square foot is an outrageous price for building new. That is outrageous. $250 is more reasonable to build new. $450 is outrageous. So we're seeing things flipped around. When we were discussing this prior, we had an architect say that I'm going to go just round numbers now. I think it was $1.8 million would be to rebuild the station house. 1.8, it might have been 1.9, but let's just say 1.8. Now they're saying to build new is 1.7. Well, it just so happens that I'm pretty familiar with building costs, and $250 a square foot for that simple build. That's just a simple a rectangular building. And in the cost, it didn't have any land, it didn't have any foundation, it didn't have any ground improvements in the cost, what they're presenting tonight here. So to me, something's really flipped around where they say they can rebuild this cheaper. When you really understand the structure of the building, everything is crooked, out of place. The floor joists on the front are all rotten. The roof is not straight at all. The roof is sagging in several different spots. It's a huge rebuild. Not just, I think the numbers for rebuild would be what they're saying for numbers of cost. And this Heritage guy that wrote his numbers down, I don't know where he gets his numbers from, maybe Vancouver. But I'm just telling you, it's not correct, the numbers. So I'm really struggling on the numbers, and I'm struggling on the information that we're getting. So that's what I have to say right now.
All
And
right,
as
thank
far
you.
as delaying the vote, I don't see any sense in delaying the vote to repeal this right now, because if we repeal it, they can still go ahead and move it if it can be. They can still apply for grants. They can still go ahead with their project if they want it. So delaying, I just think it's just another way of holding the district back from moving forward. That's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Erickson. Anyone else? Councillor Medlock. Then Councillor Stewart.
Yeah, thank you. I've put a lot of thought into this over the length of time, but I put an extra amount of thought into it over the weekend. My main thought process this weekend is to make sure that we were following the proper process in, the section of the Local Government Act that states what we have to do for repealing or putting a piece of property into heritage designation. And I wanted to make sure that we did have enough discussion on the potential options of moving the building. And I don't know that we have had enough discussion on that. I was actually going to make a phone call today to Mr. Lindsay from the Heritage Branch, and I put a reminder in my telephone to do so, but I couldn't do that call right away. And then I noticed early this morning that we got an email from him with his submission that we've attached on the agenda today. I hope everybody got a chance to read all those documents. There's 3 PDFs in total. A lot of it is the same information that we've been presented from the society as well as the coalition in the past. And I don't know why it is, but I seem to feel that because it's coming from the ministry responsible for heritage in the province, it carries more weight. And I think that this is the right time to delay the repeal of the bylaw and take another good look at it. And I know some people on council are probably going to roll their eyes and groan about that because we've been talking about this project for a long time. But this isn't something we want to screw up. We do have till the end of November to deal with the building. So I think through the efforts of the coalition, I guess, and the wards and the society, I should say, they've bought some time, and we should take advantage of that. I don't want to move hastily and in a rush. So if we were going to vote tonight to adopt the bylaw to repeal the heritage value of the station house, I would not support that tonight. I would be in favor of either tabling it till another time. But the bigger question, I suppose, is then what? I think what we really need to do is take deep thought that the provincial branch, heritage branch, sees that the heritage value has increased significantly since the 80s in the report. I hate spending money on studies and things of that nature, but maybe it's worthwhile. The $1.9 million estimate that Councillor Erickson was just referring to that we had from quantity surveyors and cost consultants. That document, I went back and looked at it. It clearly didn't take into account the heritage status of the building. It was to bring that building up to new code. I've taken a look at the BC Building Code, and there is a table that explains where there's relaxation in the code allowable for heritage value. And the main thing that allows that relaxation to take place is that the building must be sprinklered for protection, for fire protection. I think the only thing that I could notice to do with the code upgrades was accessibility for washrooms. If the facility is ever expected to have anybody that is in a wheelchair, that the building must be accessible, or people to visit the building. So I think that's a no-brainer, because if we were going to do anything with any space that's to do with the public, we would want to make sure that it is accessible. That just makes good decision-making sense. So I guess all my rambling, that's where I'm at right now. I'm hoping to hear a little bit from everybody that they're feeling the same way I am, and that we do need to slow it down, take another look at it, come up with another alternative plan, and see if it's feasible before we officially decide to repeal the heritage status. Because I know that we could repeal the heritage status, and then if we do maintain the building and move it somewhere or whatever, it could be redesignated. I understand that. But what's the point of going through that process if it's not needed? So I guess with that, I'll listen to everybody else.
Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Yeah, lots to think about. I guess my question would be delay till when? Will there be a set end date? And do we need to go through the process again, or can we just pick up with adoption if we delay? And then I kind of feel like, similar to Councillor Medlock now, people were emailing me, Facebook messaging me, and phoning me all day today. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And you know, I really feel like you shouldn't decide before you get to the meeting. You should be open and hear what people have to say. And after listening to comments that have been made throughout this meeting, I kind of feel like Councillor Medlock. I don't know if I can move forward with adoption tonight. I don't see the harm in delaying, as long as the process can pick up from here and move forward, not have to do the whole thing again. And so, yeah, I'm kind of there too. We've got till the end of August or sometime in August before the stop work order is lifted or completed or whatever they call it. So I don't know. When would the delay take place until?
That's the good question, Councillor Stewart. We would not have to go through the whole process again. We would just set a new date and bring it forward again and go from there. But there again, what's the future? And yeah, the demolition stop work order is finished August the 8th. And as Councillor Medlock said earlier, the province did give us another extension till November 30th to remove the building from the land. There is a third party that's interested. And the coalition and the society have been put in touch with them. And they're not interested at this time to move it out of the community, the coalition and the society. This would be out on Othello Road. Maybe I've said too much, John, I don't know, but I think it should be out there that there is a third party interested, which would mean if it's moved out of the community, we need to pass the repeal bylaw. So council has a lot to consider, and I don't know if Councillor Tron or Councillor Smith, Dusty Smith, if you want to contribute, I'll go to you next. But this has been going on for this most recently for 6 years, 40 years altogether. This has been dragging out on trying to make a viable site out of that station house. So let's remember that. So Councillor Smith, Dusty Smith.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of my time on council talking about this building and going over the options and everything like that in my head. And I can say very confidently that I was on board of doing our original plan, and I was very on board on that. We made a conscious effort that we've done our due diligence on tearing this building down too. With the new information that's been put in front of us and the coalition's integrity that they've put forward to save this building, I think we're negligent to not listen to this situation. I've had a conversation with Miss Webster, and it didn't end well. And I was set in my ways on that situation, and I have been open-minded to it for the information that's been put in front of us again today. I think that something needs to happen. And I think that we need to sit down. I don't know if we can sit there and table this situation that we're in right now, table it with the deadlines that we have, and either do some sort of a retreat in camera or something that we sit down and have an open-ended discussion on this, because I think we could probably do it in camera, because it has to do with the situation with land, property. And I want to hear options a little bit more and have that open-ended conversation. Maybe, I don't know. I'm torn on the situation, because like it is a building of significance. And beforehand, we did all our due diligence with the information provided to us. One, the province. Now we have a situation where the province is torn in half, where one part of the province wants to tear it down, get it off their property. The other part of the province wants us to give us extensions to find a solution for it. So I have a tough time with that when different departments are not meeting eye to eye on the situation. And I'm sure they're being briefed on this. So I think touch more discussion needs to happen within us before we just make this final decision. So, and the decision to repeal the bylaw isn't the decision to tear it down either.
No,
it is a decision to set forward, but as we've been presented, if we take that away, are we kicking ourselves in the butt or kicking the society in the butt? I have a hard time with it. So I'm indecisive still to this point.
it's a complicated issue. Anyone else want to speak to this? Councillor Tron.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I obviously haven't been dealing with this for as long as the other council members, but I've had no shortage of phone calls, face-to-face conversations with community members all over town. And I still, do I see this as being a centerpiece for this town moving forward? I've been back and forth on this decision quite a bit, but to agree with Councillor Dusty Smith, I mean, COVID took away the ability for us to kind of sit in council chambers and have a roundtable discussion. And I kind of think that's almost what we need at this point, is to, sit down as a group and bounce ideas off. Is construction my, strong point? No, I don't believe a lot of the numbers are concrete that we've been seeing, but, I'm back and forth on the numbers as well. So I would be okay with putting it off, but I don't feel confident in putting this off for a very long time. I'd like to still kind of deal with it because, like you said, we have a lot of important things moving forward. And I think what I can get from a lot of the rest of the council, they're quite frustrated with how long this process has taken as well. But I also don't want to let that influence our decision either. So that's kind of where my head's at.
All right. Councillor Victor Smith, and I'll go back to Councillor Medlock.
Hi, the station house has been on for a long time. You know, we did reports in 2017, 2018, and apparently nobody watches council or reads the paper or social media. I find it hard to believe. But if it took till August to get like that, you know, did you have something resolved? I could live with that. I find it hard that they tell us how easy the grants are when our grants haven't been approved. So are we doing something wrong? Like, or is, you know, other towns have the same problem going on, but we're told that you just put it in and get a grant. Well, we've had grants in there for 4 or 5 years that we haven't got approved yet. So is there something missing that they know about, or I don't know what it is, but anyway, you know, if we had to put it off for anything, as long as we don't have to go through the whole process again. So D-Day would have to be D-Day. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Councillor Medlock.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Vic Smith there in that grants are clearly not easy to get. We've applied for several grants for different things, and quite often we're unsuccessful because they're all oversubscribed. There's everybody around the province is trying to get the same pot of money, whether it be for you know, other infrastructure projects or heritage. I'm sure it's the same. You know, in Richard Lindsay's letter addressed to council there, he talks about public engagement and how it would be nice to have more public consultation as restrictions are lifted. I would agree that would be great, but I think we're challenged with our November 30th deadline to have the building removed, that we couldn't really get to that. So I don't wish to delay this any longer than it needs to be, but I'm just wondering if council has any sort of idea what it would take to feel a bit more satisfied to know the numbers, because the numbers have come up in a few of your conversations there that you don't agree with the numbers. It's a tough thing for us to ask a contractor that may or may not be able to get a contract to come up with some hard quote type of numbers. We're often not happy with quantity surveyor type of dollars either. So that was the challenge for years with council, was trying to come up with a number that we could determine would be applicable to spend on the building when the intent was to make it the visitor center museum. It was tough to nail that down. You know, Councillor Erickson's recommendation to bring in an architect to do a design and have that costed, at least that provided a way forward. It definitely threw a wrench into the gears of the plan, but at least it gave us some sort of way of getting some definite numbers. You know, whether we have a presentation from the coalition or the society throwing out numbers, or this letter from Heritage Works that you know totaled $695,000 plus contingencies. There's such a wide variety of dollars. I guess I'd just like to explore the option a little further. I'd like to see if we could have a discussion on it, maybe a separate committee of the whole or some sort of discussion where we could have that as the sole topic and have a lot more participation and figure out. So if this situation existed, like if, for example, we could move the building to the Water Avenue property, that's the only one that's really been proposed by the coalition and the society as of now. What could it be used for? Does it have to be used for a visitor center and museum? Is it functional for that? And if so, what would the cost to renovate it be? Or is it possible that the district own it and the society and the coalition fundraise, and over the course of time it get restored into some sort of a transportation museum or something along those lines, or community hall or whatever it is? I know it sounds like we're going back to square one, but honestly, this information, this letter from the Heritage branch, the words that they use stating that it was, you know, increased heritage value, makes me think about this all over again. I thought I had my mind made up, but clearly I don't. So I guess where does council see we need, where do we need to get to feel some confidence of making a decision? And how do we make that happen sooner than later?
Good comments, Councillor Medlock. And if you take the November 30th and back the dates up, what is a realistic time frame here to have a conversation, make some concrete decisions and move forward? Because you're looking at least 5 to 6 weeks to clear that property, I would think. And to, I don't know, even I'm talking, even a move I'm talking about here, you know, to raise it up and move it and all the other, and get the property back in line. I don't know those numbers or what's involved, but we need to figure out a realistic time frame here if you're wanting to delay. Councillor Erickson, then Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if we were to delay to say the meeting in August, I think we only have one meeting in August. Would it be possible for us to have a meeting with all of council in the council chamber? I don't know how if the province is opening up enough in the council chamber, say July meeting. Is that a possible where we could sit down and just discuss, or even have an extra meeting in July just to discuss this topic?
I'm looking over at staff, but I believe we can. It may not be the council chambers, but depending on the number of people, we could find a venue and get the group together. When is our,
Even if we had 2 meetings in August, because I think we only have 1 meeting July, 1 meeting August. But if we had 2 meetings in August where we could do it, discuss it, and then we could have this resolution brought forth in the August meeting. I think it's the August meeting is later in the month.
I'll look to staff on this. I don't know what your schedule is like for the July and August meeting already. Which would be?
I'm sensing that council wants an evening just to discuss this topic on its own. So we would schedule a separate meeting outside, continue with our regular scheduled council meetings in July and August, and have a separate meeting just for the station house topic.
I'd like to have that meeting in July.
Okay. We can set that and get it out to council.
Okay. If that's the direction we end up going here. Victor Smith, please.
Hi, so your worship, we would have to, we'd have to make some decision by August, because if you're going to move it or do anything else on the property, because we get into November, like Councillor Medlock said, the weather is going to be against us. It's a risk factor, not a good time to be doing things. So I think if we'd met in July and it came to conclusion for August, I think would be have a time frame we could still get it done when the weather's still reasonable to work on it. So.
If there's, did I miss anybody? If there's no further discussion at this time, I have a sense of where we're headed here. So I would entertain a motion from the floor to capture our discussion on moving forward here tonight. So who's going to make the motion? Councillor Medlock?
What date in July are we? Normally we meet at the 2nd or the 4th Monday. I just don't have it on my calendar right here.
Yeah, just be a moment. Staff
July
says check.
12th.
That's the
Mr.
regular
Mayor, it's July
council.
12th.
So
July-
July 26th would be not a normal council meeting for July.
Correct.
Okay, so
Do you want the 26th then? I'm talking to staff.
Basically, I mean, we can call a meeting any day in July. I mean, as long as council's available. So we just got a post notice of same. So if council's good with the 26th, we can book the 26th.
yeah, I mean, I'm okay with any date. I was just trying to stick to a regular
Mhm.
2nd and 4th council meeting schedule. I was about to
Yep.
form a motion to that, but if somebody knows they're not going to be available that day, maybe let it be known here.
I don't know that we have to set the date tonight so much so as we can get feedback from council through email if they want to reference their holiday schedule for the summer.
and who's to be invited if this moves forward, and they all have to be notified. So let's get your motion on the floor here. And
My idea with the motion was to put a date to it, but I mean, if the motion can be as simple as to table the decision on adoption, I'll leave it at that. But I also feel like it's important to set a date for this future discussion so that it doesn't drag on as I think it might.
then why don't you put before July 31st?
That's a good option.
Okay, it leaves it wide open. We'll get back to you as quickly as possible when we get the parties involved, who's going to be coming and not. And then if you're comfortable with that, Councillor Medlock.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we delay adoption until the it would have to come back to a meeting in August though, but we need to meet before July or before that meeting is my point. So how do I phrase that?
Well, we can table the adoption,
Okay.
the adoption be tabled, and that council have further discussion on the matter before the end of July to bring the bylaw forward in August.
Yeah. That
There you
sounds
go.
good.
Okay,
Those are my words.
they are. And
We'll smooth it out.
so, Councillor Stewart, are you seconded?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Erickson? Yes, go ahead.
So is this going to be an in-camera meeting, or are we going to be in the council chambers doing this, or are we going to be in a Legion or somewhere else? Is it going to be in person or is it going to be Zoom?
It could be a combination. I guess it's what the safety protocol at the time we booked the meeting,
Okay.
how many people are attending.
Well, if it's in camera, then it's just us, right?
No, it could, you're wanting a discussion with all the players that this will be affected by. Is it not? Was that what you're, is that what you're suggesting, Councillor Medlock? Or just us?
I mean, it's ultimately a council decision, but it would be helpful if we could somehow get somebody with some knowledge in
Because I was going to say,
construction costs to be there.
yes, because who's providing this information to council to make a decision that we can't make a decision on tonight?
Exactly.
So
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful to have somebody that has some information and can help cost us this without, because there's just too many numbers floating around. I don't know that we need to have it in camera. I don't think there's anything that is, in camera worthy for the discussion. I think it's can all be
Okay.
open discussion.
it could be a committee of the whole, a special committee of the
Yeah.
whole before July 31st. And your motion is still going to stand. It's the same.
So basically, my motion is to table until the first meeting in August, but to have discussion surrounding options by the end of July.
Okay, is council clear on that? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. There you go. Next item, zoning amendment bylaw number 1507, 2021, read 558 and 568 Park Street. That the District of Hope zoning amendment bylaw number 1570, 2021 to rezone the properties having a civic address of 558 Park Street and 568 Park Street from single-family residential RS1 to ground-oriented multiple-family residential RM2 be given a third reading this 14th day of June 2021. Moved, second. Any discussion? Councillor Medlock? Oh, there's a bit of a delay there.
Yeah.
You have a question?
More of a comment. I want to proceed with supporting this development. I think some of the concerns from the letters in opposition at the public hearing have been addressed. The parking being off-street with double garages at each property. The idea of having green space. He's not as the project is not using up the full density that zone would allow on the property space. I think it's good that it's still directed to single family you know, as an entry level type of home, decent size, 3 bedrooms. So I think it's a good mix. And I know, you know, there's recently been another rezone, well, 3 years ago, I guess, for that comprehensive development just to the west of this property. But when I look at that whole corridor down Park Street, I think it's kind of well suited for this type of housing. You've got the 2 manors across the street. At the corner of Coquihalla and Park and Fifth, we've got the Kings Court apartment block. And I just think it's, and then now the other one with the 2 triplexes at 548 Park Street, I guess it is. So that whole area seems like it's a well-suited area for the multifamily type of zoning. So I do support this. So we'll carry on with that.
All right, any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Looking forward to seeing that development. Thank you. Next item, a report dated June 7th, 2021 from our Director of Community Development, but tonight it's our planner. Development Variance Permit 21297 Lakeview Crescent. Ms. Eklund, I'll turn it over to you for a moment there.
All right, sounds good. This is a development variance permit in order to relax the maximum building height for an accessory building, which would normally be 5 meters, 16.5 feet. And we are varying that height to 7 meters, 22.9 feet in order to build a garage on the property legally. Just you can see the legal description. So that's the variance. It's for a garage structure. The property owners are doing a renovation to the inside of their house as well, but this variance only pertains to the garage.
Thank you. We've received 5 submissions that I'll read right now. The first one is from Daryl Beltson. I personally do not want to see a taller building built across the street from my place. I believe their last plan was not allowed either. The addition should be enough room without the need to go taller. The next item submission is from Sylvia Ferran. Dear Mr. Gill, the email address in your recent letter did not work when I tried to send it. I feel that to accept this variance to regulations would be setting a precedent for future applications. And from my experience, what happens is that people will apply for taller and taller buildings in order to secure a view of the lake. I've seen that happen when there is a loss of view, whether it is water or some other attraction. In addition, I feel the design itself with the twin garage right at the street view is unattractive and would lower the value of properties across from it, as well as the property itself. People passing the garage would not find it an attractive addition to the neighborhood. I sincerely hope the owners of the property will reconsider their plans and seek to redesign their home in a way that will enhance its value, not only for themselves, but for the neighborhood. The next one is from Jim and Leanna Jackson, Council of the District of Hope, concerning this application for a variance in the height of an accessory building at 21287 Lakeview Crescent. We are in favor of the proposed plan. The accessory building's precede roof line lines up with the roof line of the proposed alterations to the existing structure. You have to look very closely to see that this garage structure is not attached to the existing alterations home. It is an attractive and pleasing renovation and will enhance the neighborhood. This one's from Rick Jordan. I'm writing about the variance permit for 21297 Lakeview Crescent. I'm a property owner of Cockrell Lake Lakeside Strata subdivision right next door to the named property, and I have concerns about the variance permit application. There has been a history of concern over the property line on the west side of the property, abutting our property, before applying for the variance. Before anything changes on that property to do with the residents, I think the property line needs to be defined by the owners of the property. Since the present owners of the property have been there have been concerns about the use of the property by myself, as well as other property owners in our subdivision, as to the said property being used for purposes other than a residential lot, which the area is zoned for. The owner is a church leader at the church that also runs Camp Hope. They use this property as their water sports area. They use school buses parked in the street and have large numbers of youths down at the lake. There's a large number of canoes, a powerboat for skiing, and a wakeboard, and also a jet ski. When there is that many people at the house, I would also have to think They are using the washrooms, etc., which would be a larger than normal usage of district resources like water. When we as property owners use our lakeshore area, it is quite often very noisy and distracting with all the people using the facility next door. I have no problem with people enjoying the lake, but this is a residential area and not a seemingly commercial or camp-related venture. We retired in this area with the knowledge we were buying into a quiet residential area, not commercial. When you look at the drawing of the proposed changes to the property, it looks like a second story being added to the existing house and garage and possible living quarters above the existing and new garage. I question why two nearly retired people require a house of this size for their own personal use. I'm afraid this is going to be seemingly even larger commercial or camp endeavor than what has already taken place in a pre-pandemic restricted normal summer since they have owned the property. The last one is from Robert Knapp. The variance is specifically for the garage height. The house is also, oh, sorry, that's from Jazz. My apologies. So Mr. Knapp was looking for, thank you for the information package we received from the District of Hope regarding the above application. While we are happy to see that this property will be renovated, we wonder why the variance. If just a garage is being built, from the drawings provided, it appears that the height variance is needed to facilitate housing space above the garage. As well as a private home, this property appears to be used for church camp purposes. We have seen up to 2 loaded buses a day arrive there to use their lakeside property, motorized water equipment and facilities. There can be quite a commotion around their dock at Lakeside. There are times when we have to be very careful with our small grandchildren, as our Strata community dock is only about 20 feet from theirs. That was from Robert and Janine Knapp. That's all the submissions that I've been sent. The motion reads at this time that council approves the issuance of a development variance permit in order to relax the building maximum building height for an accessory building or structure from 5 meters to 7 meters in order to build a garage on the property at 21297 Lakeview Crescent. And further, the Director of Community Development be authorized to endorse the development variance permit. And further, that for the purposes of Section 504 of the Local Government Act, substantially start shall be in the completion of the foundation for the garage. I moved and second. I need a seconder, please. Okay, I have a seconder. Discussion at all, questions for staff or the applicant? Councillor Tron.
I just have one quick question for Brittany and then I guess for the proponent. But my first question would be, one of the concerns in the letters were of the property line. I guess it would be next to the strata. I guess next to the garage, obviously. Has there been any recent history of a survey done to the property to define the property line?
Check with the applicant, but I believe there was a survey done as part of the geotechnical, because there was a geotechnical report done for the property that I actually reviewed last week, and I'm still working through the review of that. But I believe there was a survey as done as part of that process. So I hadn't heard anything about the lot line prior to now, but the survey, there was a survey that's been done, yes.
Okay, and they don't, they're not encroaching on anything.
Pam and Brian, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you for the opportunity, and it's been an interesting experience here. We've had a land survey, we've had a topo survey, and we've had a geotechnical investigation for the property, and the surveys that we have turned into the city show the property lines.
And just my final question involves just the involvement. I guess one of the proponents, or not proponents, one of the concerned community members was asking about the, was it be church events on the property, or he said mentioned buses, and will you be running like events and stuff out of the house in regards to the church, or?
All our life we've run events out of our home, whether it be Abbotsford, whether it be in California, or whether it be in Calgary. With regards to this specific thing, The students are dropped off at the public dock and are to be picked up there. There are the occasions when we have somebody walk down the hill to be able to get in their canoes. But for the most part, the only access that any children have is through the public space. We don't allow any of the campers. I am the camp director for Mountain View Summer Camp here at Camp Hope. But we don't allow any of the campers to come in and access the house. They have to use the public facility. And we've been doing this for quite a number of years. We've had the Ashes, the Corbetts, and I forget the other person's name, has allowed us to have their boats stored there, and the young people have to be picked up at the public dock.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Thank you. Next item. Report dated June the 3rd from our Director of Community Development, read the Geotechnical Hazard Development Permit for 21492 Union Bar Road. Ms. Eklund, do you have anything to speak to about this before I read the motion?
They are proposing a 3-story single-family dwelling, approximately 2,000 square feet. This property is split by Union Bar Road. They are proposing to build closer to the lakeside, the southeast portion of the road, due to, I would think, due to geotechnical constraints on the opposite side. We haven't, to my knowledge, I haven't reviewed the report yet. I'm not sure if it's been submitted, but it's typical of our process to send the rationale for the development permit, and then it gets issued once we receive a satisfactory report.
All right, thank you for that. The motion reads that a District of Hope geotechnical hazard development permit be approved for the property legally described at 21492 Union Bar for the construction of a single-family dwelling and a future secondary dwelling, subject to the District of Hope receiving a satisfactory certified report from a qualified professional confirming site-specific safe building envelopes for the property at 21492 Union Bar Road, and further that the Director of Community Development be authorized to endorse the geotechnical hazard development permit and required covenant document, and further that for purposes of the geotechnical hazard development permit validity period, the conditions of the development permit shall expire on June 14th, 2023. And further that for the purposes of Section 504 of the Local Government Act, substantially start any construction shall mean the placement of the foundation for a single-family dwelling as certified safe by a qualified professional. Moved and second. Any questions for staff? Hearing none. All those in favor? Carried. Next item is a report dated June the 9th, 2021 from the Director of Community Development, read the development variance permit for 19908 Silver Hope Road.
All right, I can speak to this.
Okay.
Applicant is applying for a development variance permit in order to relax the front yard height provision, which in a residential zone is currently 1.2 meters. They are looking to move that to 1.68 meters. The rationale for this is that they have a mailbox, a postal box outside of their home, and they want a bit more privacy as there are frequent stops to check for mail and from the mail, the mail people, and also from the people on the street. So they would like a bit more privacy. The council package does show a drawing and also a bit of a site plan on where they anticipate this fence will go. I did want to reiterate that the fence has not been built at this point. He is simply asking for permission to be able to build it a bit higher.
The right way to go. Thank you. Good to hear. The council approves the preparation of a development variance permit in order to relax the front yard fence height provision from 1.2 meters to 1.68 meters on the property legally described as 19908 Silver Hope Road, and further that in accordance with the District of Hope Development Procedures Bylaw, the Local Government Act, and the Community Charter, authorize staff to issue a notice of intent to consider the approval of the development variance permit to the neighboring property owners. Councillor Stewart first, and moved in second, seconded by Councillor Tron. Any questions of staff? I think it's pretty straightforward. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you, Ms. Eklund, for stepping in for Director of Community Development, Mr. Gill. Great job. Next item is for information correspondence, that the information correspondence list dated June 14th be received. Moved and second. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Accounts payable check listing, that the accounts payable check listing for the period May 1st to May 31st be received. Moved and second. All those in favor? Carried. Question period. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, council meetings are closed to the public. However, the public can email questions and or comments to the Director of Corporate Services at dbellingham@hope.ca. Notice of our next regular meeting is Monday, June the 28th, 2021 at 7 p.m. unless otherwise recorded. Motion to adjourn.